Welcome to a tour of 10 forgotten fast food chains in the US that no longer exist. We'll trace how each brand rose to prominence and why it faded, from Burger Chef's child-friendly beginnings to Kenny Rogers Roasters' chicken bet. Along the way we'll meet Red Barn, White Tower, Horn and Hardart Automat, Howard Johnson's, Geno's Hamburgers, Lum's, Chi-Chi's, Pup, and Taco, and more. By the end, you'll see how these once dominant names shaped American dining, and why they're no longer around. 1. Burger Chef, America's forgotten Happy Meal pioneer. Long before McDonald's introduced its iconic Happy Meal, there was Burger Chef. In the 60s and 70s, this Indianapolis-based chain reached over 1,000 locations at its apex and was a true innovator in the fast food field, serving up a slew of firsts. The chef pioneered the value menu by offering a combo of a hamburger, fries, and milkshake called the Triple Treat, which, at the time it was introduced in the 1950s, cost 45 cents. It was among the first to offer kids' meals with toys and to offer a works bar where customers could customize their sandwiches. Unfortunately, the restaurant chain began to decline after a tragic incident in the 1970s. Several employees were kidnapped from one of the restaurants, and they were found murdered. Due to the bad publicity from this, plus alleged mismanagement, Burger Chef was sold to Hardee's in 1982. At that time, it was worth $44 million, and the final Burger Chef location was closed down in 1996. 2. Red Barn. When the Hungries hit the Red Barn. They started sprouting in Dayton, Ohio, circa the 1960s, and when the hungry hit, people were encouraged to hit the Red Barn. The grub was your average fast food consisting of a salad bar, fried chicken, fish sandwiches, and the pièce de résistance, juicy hamburgers and cheeseburgers. The two biggest sellers included the double-decker, triple bun Big Barney, which resembled today's Big Macs, and the Barnbuster, which was similar to a quarter-pounder or Whopper with a quarter-pound patty, tomatoes, lettuce, pickles, and special sauce on a sesame seed bun. Plenty of folks were able to get their hands on these signature sandwiches during the mid to late 20th century, as the chain grew to over 300 locations across 19 states and even in parts of Canada and Australia. The brand has since kicked the can, becoming utterly defunct after its last locations closed in 1988. 3. White Tower. The castle that lost its crown at its peak in the mid-1950s. The chain had 230 stores in several states. John E. Sachs and Thomas E. Sachs started White Tower Hamburgers after investigating various White Castle locations, observing operations and hiring a White Castle operator. The first location opened near Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. By the end of 1927, there were 6 locations in Milwaukee and Racine, Wisconsin. This chain was notorious for deliberately copying White Castle's design and business model. In 1929, White Castle sued White Tower in Minnesota for unfair competition, and White Tower counter-sued in Michigan as White Tower had arrived in Michigan first. The Minnesota case ended in 1930 in favor of White Castle, forcing White Tower to end its use of similar building designs, slogans and name along with a substantial financial judgment. White Tower famously hired young women it called Towerettes, who wore nurse outfits as an indicator of clean, hygienic eating conditions. The final White Tower location closed up shop in 1978, and, today, it feels as antiquated as the castles it used to mimic. 4. Horn and Hardart Automat. America's first fast food revolution. Horn and Hardart was a food services company in the United States noted for operating the first food service automats in Philadelphia, New York City, and Baltimore. Horn and Hardart Automats ushered in the fast food era, and at their height, they operated 88 locations and were among the largest restaurant chains. The self-service restaurants operated for nearly a century, with the business' last storefront closing in New York City in 1991. They featured prepared foods displayed behind small coin and token-operated glass-doored windows, beginning with buns, beans, fish cakes, and coffee. As late as the 1950s, one could enjoy a large, if somewhat plain, meal for under $1. Each stack of dispensers had a metal drum that could be rotated by staff on the other side of the vending wall to refill its windows. Every dispenser had a slot for coins or tokens purchased from a cashier worth up to 75 cents for more expensive items. A knob was rotated to capture the fee and unlock the door. The magic wasn't just in the food, it was in the experience itself, making dining feel futuristic. 5. Howard Johnson's The Orange Roof that once ruled America. Howard Johnson's was the largest restaurant chain in the U.S. throughout the 1960s and 1970s, with more than 1,000 combined company-owned and franchised outlets. Today, the chain is defunct after dwindling down to one location. The last Howard Johnson's restaurant, in Lake George, New York, closed its doors. Founded in the 1920s, the restaurant had around 200 stores by the beginning of World War II. But tides quickly turned when other fast food restaurants started popping up. The last Howard Johnson's closed in 2022. The famous orange roofs and 28 flavors of ice cream became a distant memory as McDonald's and other chains took over the highway dining landscape. 6. Geno's Hamburgers. When football stars flipped burgers in the mid-1900s, one of the most popular hamburger chains across America was Geno's Hamburgers. Based out of King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Geno's Hamburgers was owned and led by Gino Marchetti, who was a captain for the Baltimore Colts of the National Football League. At its peak, Geno's Hamburgers had 359 locations open, but it was eventually purchased in 1982 by the Marriott Corporation. Following the deal, the Marriott Corporation rebranded the locations as Roy Rogers Restaurants, and the final Geno's location closed its doors in 1986. The chain's connection to football gave it instant credibility and a loyal following among sports fans. But even celebrity endorsement couldn't save it from corporate buyouts and the relentless march of larger chains. 7. Lum's Beer. Steamed hot dogs and broken dreams. Lum's rushed onto the fast food scene in the 50s. People knew and loved the small fast food chain for its legendary beer steamed hot dogs. And over time, 273 different locations existed. But it couldn't last for the long haul. Most locations closed when the Lum's company filed for bankruptcy. Only one Lum's lasted throughout the 2000s and 2010s, and it was located in Bellevue, Nebraska. The concept was unique enough to capture attention. Who doesn't want a hot dog steamed in beer? But even the most creative menu couldn't overcome poor financial management and changing consumer preferences. 8. Chi-Chi's. The Tex-Mex chain that ended in disaster. Perhaps no chain saw a more disastrous end to their run as a restaurant chain as Chi-Chi's did. Originally founded in 1975, the popular Tex-Mex chain saw big expansion across both the United States and Europe, having opened 230 locations at the company's height. However, the company would not only file for bankruptcy in 2003 but would see even more chaos as they looked to close their doors. Just 1 month after filing for bankruptcy, Chi-Chi's was hit with the largest outbreak of hepatitis A ever seen in the United States. The timing couldn't have been worse. Financial troubles combined with a massive health crisis spelled absolute doom for the brand. Some things you just can't recover from, no matter how good your salsa was. 9. Pup and Taco. The hybrid that couldn't compete. Pup and Taco was an interesting restaurant, kind of like an early hybrid of McDonald's and Taco Bell. In fact, Taco Bell eventually bought the company out in 1984. Before then, Pup and Taco was known for its tacos, burgers, pastrami, and hot dogs. Pup and Taco was founded in 1956 by Big Donut founder Russ Wendell in Southern California, and in its heyday, the chain had more than 100 stores in the area. As the name suggests, the chain was known for hot dogs and tacos, but the menu also featured a variety of slushes and burgers. Taco Bell bought out 99 of the Pup and Taco locations in 1984, and the remaining 3 shuttered in the 2010s. 10. Kenny Rogers Roasters. The Gambler's Chicken Bed. Kenny Rogers started Kenny Rogers Roasters in the 1990s when rotisserie chicken was all the rage. The chain thrived for years, peaking at over 400 restaurants globally. Many believe rapid expansion was a fatal mistake, as the chain filed for bankruptcy in 1998. The last restaurant in the U.S. closed in 2011, but according to Restaurant Business, you can still dine at a Kenny Rogers Roasters in Singapore. The country music superstar knew when to hold him, but apparently not when to fold him when it came to restaurant expansion. Sometimes celebrity power isn't enough to overcome basic business fundamentals. 11. The Last Bite. These 10 forgotten chains tell the story of American fast food's wild and unpredictable journey. From innovative pioneers like Burger Chef to celebrity-backed ventures like Kenny Rogers Roasters, each had its moment in the spotlight before fading into memory. Some fell victim to corporate buyouts, others to health crises or poor management, and many simply couldn't keep up with the relentless pace of change in the fast food industry. What's fascinating is how these chains often introduced concepts that became standard practice elsewhere. The Happy Meal? That was Burger Chef first. Customizable toppings bars? Also Burger Chef. Value combos? You guessed it, another Burger Chef innovation that McDonald's perfected and popularized. These forgotten pioneers paved the road that today's fast food giants still travel on, even if most people have no idea who built it. Did you expect that so many of your current fast food favorites actually borrowed their best ideas from chains that no longer exist?